I'd like to call to order the meeting of the West Bend Community Memorial Library Board for Tuesday, May 21st. It is 6:30. The first order on the agenda is, of course, call to order. And I would like to have an introduction of the new members before we move into the meeting, if that is okay. Cindy, ladies first.
Okay. Should I stand or?
Nope, yeah.
No, you can sit.
You can sit, but the camera's there, so.
So my name is Cindy Warnier, and I work at Dairyland Seed up in Kewaskum, Wisconsin. Not sure what else you want to know about me.
I'll forget the spelling of your name later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interest in the library?
Oh, well, Buck's passion. Yeah, that's why I'm here.
Good. Thank you.
Another
very
excuse to, come and check out more books. So, yeah. Good deal.
And
All right.
another new person is Joe.
Yep, I am Joseph Legate. I have been living in West Bend since I was young. Enjoyed the library many summers. I work at Milkus Trier and Company CPAs in West Bend, and that's about it, yeah.
And do you prefer Joseph?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
Joseph, it's a
Joseph.
matter of perspective when you've been here young.
Yeah,
You've been here a long time.
yeah.
Welcome.
Now for the new people, I guess I'd like us to go around and just, I'm Deb Bartnikowski, and I've been on the library board 7+ years.
Okay, I'm Joanne Klein. I've been on the board about that same time. And I'm glad you're here, both of you. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm Karen Wacholtz. I've been on the, about the same my third,
5, 6, 5.
yeah, third.
Doug Rakowski, I've been on the board about 12 years.
Chris Jenkins, I've met you guys. Been here since 2011, was board president for 3 years before joining the common council. Now I'm the city council rep.
I'm Jay Shamlin, city administrator.
I'm Jessie Tormasi. I work at Badger, along with, well, this guy's district-wide too. This is my first year on the board.
Tim Harder, I am the school district representative. I've been on the board 3 or 4 years.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. I would like to call for the approval of the agenda.
So move.
A second?
Okay, any discussion? Otherwise, we'll take a vote. All in favor of the agenda? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now is the time when we will do our election of the library board officers. We have president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. Those are the 4 positions. So we'll start with president.
Call for nominations from the floor.
I will call for nominations.
How tired are you?
Always tired.
Okay. I'll nominate Deb
Second.
Bartnikowski for president.
Are there any other nominations? I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, thank you. Now we need to have a recommendation or a nomination for vice president.
Okay. I'd like to nominate Jessie.
I'll second that.
Do we have any other nominees? Otherwise, we'll call for a vote. All in favor of Jesse becoming the vice president, say aye.
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 Opposed? And I'd like to thank Joanne for the last 3 years. You've done a great job.
Thank you.
Secretary. Do we have a nomination for the secretary?
Karen, are you going to hang in?
Because you don't mind, it takes me sometimes a couple days to get them,
You're okay.
You are wonderful.
Oh, you do
You
a
are
great
wonderful.
job.
considering
So-
how I ride. Yeah.
I nominate Karen for secretary.
Okay, we have a recommendation or a nomination. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Chelsea? Any other nominees? All in favor of Karen being the secretary, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the last position is the financial, finance person. Okay. Jim, who was our finance person, has stepped down, so we are in need of a finance person. Do we have any nominees?
I will nominate Joseph if he's willing.
Sure.
I think it helps to have a, a new perspective. You do have a finance background.
Mm-hmm.
I think that can aid us in the future. So
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Awesome.
We have a nominee. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second, a nominee and a second. Do we have any other nominees? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of Joseph being our financial person, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you all for serving and for your position. Now I would like to call for a recommendation for the consent agenda, and that would be the approval of the meeting minutes of April 16th and from our regular library board, and also approval of the library expenditures for April.
So move.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Any discussion on either the minutes or the expenditures? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Number 5, financial reports and fund balance. Amy?
Okay, this last month I've had the privilege of doing the financial report. We did receive numerous donations for summer reading this year, as well as a donation from the Carwath family. So our summer reading sponsors are River Shores Chiropractic, Pleasant Valley Veterinary Hospital, the law offices of Kimberly Patricus and Laufenberg, West Bend Mutual Insurance, Cornerstone Dental, Midwest Dental, and Alliance Services. So we want to thank all of our summer reading sponsors this year. This is not the whole of summer reading donations. There will be more that came in May that will be reported at our next meeting. We also received donations for park maintenance this last month, and those were from Robert and Lisa Sanborn, Chris Wenzel, and American Construction Companies. So I want to thank them for their donations to the park maintenance. Let's see.
We haven't received the outreach yet, have we?
The outreach.
Dollars, they're still in the negative.
I think we're waiting for one payment.
Okay. Okay.
But they're not in the negative by much, so
No, and
comparatively.
it's, no, but I'm
Yep.
just saying, you notice that
Yep.
hasn't been deposited.
Yep. We sent the bills out in April, and remember, this is as of April 30th. So I'm sure we'll
Okay.
get some more
Okay, just-
in May, especially if the city does a 30-day net. Are there any questions on the financials?
Make some observations.
Sure.
I think for all, going forward, tonight it may be helpful to remember, because we may be coming back to this, that Library Fund 21 is money from the city. 126 is county, and that the undesignated fund balances in both of those are intended for operations for the year. Okay.
I did want to address the concerns that were part of my report, the questions that you had at the last meeting, as far as the fund balance goes. And those questions were whether or not we could carry a negative fund balance. And I talked to the city administrator and to the finance director, and they said we could carry it only if we could cover it this year. So I don't anticipate us being able to cover it this year totally. To be honest with you, I don't know. You don't know what's going to happen in the next 7 months until the end of the year. So, and we budget pretty tightly. And the negative fund balance that you see in the Fund 21, the 33,000, was talked about at the last meeting, and those funds were transferred.
They were transferred
No,
or?
They're not transferred yet.
They were
Right.
approved.
They were
to be-
approved,
All right.
and I was waiting for minutes to get them transferred.
And we had been asked that you follow up on that with the city, and that's why Jay is here.
Yep.
We had discussion as to how the city finances or pays for this type of overage or
Overrun.
overrun in the budget. Is this common for all the departments? That if a medical expense occurs, that particular department is responsible for that?
Yes and no. We have several different classifications of departments, enterprise departments, that it's very clear that their funds are separate. And then we have some departments that are not enterprise, but they're separate from the standpoint that they are funded separately. They receive their funding in a separate manner. And the library is one of those departments.
Is an enterprise or?
It's not an enterprise, but it's a special department from a funding standpoint within the city. Similarly, the community TV, guys that put on the videos for the city and cover these kind of board meetings, receives their funding from a separate funding source. So they're administered separately, but not an enterprise fund. So it'll be a similar category. That's why the answer is yes and no. And then for all, and even in some cases, we have a little blending within departments. The Parks Department, Craig's department is an example of that they have the Recreation Division within their main department, and that's operated a bit like an enterprise fund. But the entire department is more of a general fund. And so the general fund departments, administration, HR, planning, engineering, parks for the most part, those departments are all handled, health insurance is all handled specifically to the issue at hand, is all handled with one big chunk of money. Sewer and water are enterprise funds or our utility departments. They are very clearly handled separately, and the group, not the other special departments are handled separately as well. And I think that's the base of your question.
And we are considered special because?
Because you don't just receive funding from the city of West Bend, you also receive funding from outside sources, specifically the county. And you keep your fund balance is the biggest difference. All the other departments, at the end of the year, if there's any money left, it rolls into a citywide fund balance for the general departments. For your, and that's the Fund 21 that was mentioned already, that's unique to a very special department to be able to retain those funds.
Okay.
Historically, and I don't even know when, but for me, several gigs ago, and for the city probably many, many years ago, each little department had their own fund balance and fiefdom, and that changed over time. And now just departments that it makes sense for, and accounting, quite honestly, accounting practices have dictated some of that as to why the funds are held separately.
If we were to commingle our funds, so we weren't considered a special, would we still have this situation with the health insurance?
No, but you also would have fund balance at the end of the year.
Okay, what would happen to that money?
It would go into the city's fund balance.
And who would spend it?
Pardon?
Who would spend it, the city, or would the library continue control?
The library would not have control over a city.
Okay. So you would like to have your hands on our money?
But we also are a little unique in the fact that we have, well, I'm not sure how, the city pays us. I'm thinking of the way the county handles the tax payment.
Yeah,
We
that's
really
different.
don't, yeah, that's.
It's different. And that's why our funds don't commingle with the city. It's state statute that our funds have to be separate. So
So
that they're
regard-
just used for the library.
So regardless if we wanted to or not, the state says we can't.
Correct.
So because the state says we can't, we're being penalized and handle it as a special.
Correct, but on those years that we have more money at the end of the year, we get to keep that money
Oh, yeah.
and use
No, I
it. So
understand.
there's a positive and a negative to it.
Okay. Now, is it necessary that we transfer this 33,000 before the end of the year?
Yes,
Why?
because I don't know that I'm gonna have it. And you
Well, if
guys
you don't-
approved it.
Okay, if you don't know, that means we could have it, and we could wait until November or December to get a better handle on the budget, right? I mean, if you don't know now, how do you know we're not gonna have it?
We plan so that we can do things during the year. If we choose during that year not to do things, or if something emergency-wide happens, and we pay that out of our operating budget, then we might be very close. Like if something happens again with health insurance,
All right,
you know, we don't know.
but there
So there's
is,
still an uncertainty there
right,
as far as that goes.
but there's no statutory requirement that we transfer that money this month. We could transfer that money anytime because it's not coming out of our budget, right? You're looking at taking that from one of the fund balances, right?
Yes, it was approved at the last meeting.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, if we wait, because we were under the impression that we had to do it, but if we don't have to do it, we could let it sit, we can operate with that negative, and if in November, it looks like we're gonna have to transfer the money from a fund balance, we can do it. But if we don't have to, we can transfer it from the budget and leave the money in the fund balance.
Strategically, from the city's finance perspective, and Carrie, Amy and I had this conversation, there's really no advantage to doing that. The money in fund balance is yours. So if, let's say at the end of the year, you had 40,000 left over, so you were able to cover the 33,000, you would then roll the extra 7,000 into Fund 21. So if you took the money out now as your previous month's action was to do, and you had that same 40,000 left at the end of the year, instead of rolling 40,000 into Fund 21, instead of rolling 7,000 into Fund 21, you would roll 40,000 into Fund 21.
I guess I'd rather take a look at waiting and let's just see what happens, because we know the money is there.
Is this causing something on the city's books that it looks like we have something?
It's always uncomfortable for finance in particular to have negative balances. Yes.
So the negative balance is, where is it? It's showing up like in our fund balance as a negative. Is it showing anywhere else in the city funding?
Well,
It's showing in our audit.
yeah, we're all the same.
Okay. I am, and that, I'm just trying to
Yep,
clarify
yes,
that for
yes.
myself. I see your point, because it, even if we would look for grants, somebody may look at this and say we have a negative fund balance. You know, when we apply for grants, we need to send our financial information in. I mean, that's a negative carrying that.
Plus, if we change the amount, let's say like Doug, we wait, we've already approved it, we voted on this, all of a sudden you're saying, okay, we're only gonna do 28, now we gotta put it on the agenda and we gotta vote on it again, right? So this way, we've already approved this, and we can move forward. Like Jay says, if we have extra, roll it in, but
But see, right now, if you do it, you take it out of a fund balance. If you wait, you can take it out of, we could have a very good chance of just taking it out of operations.
But we're not losing any money really, because if we still have it at the end of the year next year, we just roll it back into the emergency fund.
But if we don't have it, then we've taken it from a fund balance.
Correct.
And I think that's the decision we made last month when we said we weren't gonna try to nickel and dime our operating budget to cover it and cover it out of fund balance. And that's the decision we've already made as a board, that we are covering this out of our fund balance. We are not gonna say stop replacing, pick on technology, computers or whatever else, because I use that example all the time in my world. We just said we're gonna use fund balance, knowing that we are effective and efficient, and if we have money left in our operating budget, that would cover that, let's say it's $10,000, that money that's still in our operating budget is gonna roll back into fund balance at that point.
So based on what we actually did vote, we did vote to move the money. You did object. You were the one of objection. Do we need to take another vote to say when we move it?
I don't think so.
No.
I think at this
Okay.
point, it's been
There's
discussion,
nothing to-
and that's it.
Yeah, okay. So I think you will have authority to move the money based on,
Yeah, I did last month, so.
and at the end of the year, if we have extra, we'll move it back.
Put it back in the emergency fund.
Thank you. Thank you, Jay, for coming
You're
and
welcome.
explaining. We appreciate that.
It's been a while. I'll hang out for a while.
That's fine. Okay, public comment, as usual. We'll move through that rather fast.
Oh, it's, that's 6, right?
Number 6.
I'm losing.
Excuse me. Library Director's Report. On the Library Director's Report,
Oh, yeah. We are gearing up for summer. These are our new summer reading t-shirts. So,
Ooh, I like those.
if you like them, they are for sale at the information desk. Our theme is a universe of stories, so it's based on a science theme this year. And we have lots of fun activities going on this summer, and I did include the children's handout with all the activities that are going on this summer. A lot of things. We're having Star Lab come. We're having we're having animals, the bubble guy, storytellers, we're having movies, we're doing lots of different things, so come on out. The ice cream social is June 6th, so be sure to hit that event out in the park back here, so pray for good weather.
pray for warm weather.
That too, that too, that too. We had a sprinkler system emergency repair that we had to do that I wanted to inform you about. During a routine test on April 25th, it was found that the 3-inch valve had failed. And that is something that we had to get replaced immediately, because if it didn't get replaced, we would not have a sprinkler system on the 2nd floor. So I authorized that, and it was completed on May 1st. The quote for the repair is $68.42, and that came out of our building maintenance budget. So our strategic plan committee has been meeting, and I plan to present the 2-page strategic plan we have come up with to the library board next month. We're meeting one more time on Thursday, so just to finalize things. And I want to thank everyone who was included in the process, including Jesse and Brad. We had CPR and stop the bleed training for the full-time staff. The fire department and the police department did that, so that was great. And we'll be having more sessions of those during the year for more staff to be trained on that. I believe they're gonna try and do it once a month. If they can, get enough people to do it. Because when they do it, they can only do like 12 people at a time. So, statistics are in there for you to look at. We had some nice gains, and in the year-to-date especially, the circulation, we did go up. And if anybody has any questions on the statistics, I'd entertain those now. Okay, great. That's my report.
We had some good turnout at the programs. I was looking at the head counts and stuff. It's amazing how
Yep,
much
Pete
fun
the
it
Cat was very popular, by the way. We had like 400, I think we stopped counting at 400. We might have had more than that, so
Wow.
it was great.
Any questions for Amy?
I didn't know who Pete the Cat was, but my kids did.
Yes.
They were excited.
I have no idea what that is.
It's a children's book,
Oh, it's a book, okay.
children's book series.
My niece probably knows that.
Yep, it's a picture book series.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, moving on to number 8, Library Board President's Report. We placed into this portion here the information on the CD player from one of our customers or one of our patrons. I hope everyone has had a chance to look at the letters that had transpired. The reason I felt it needed to be brought to the board is because I think we have to be aware of this, and the board really needs to make a decision. This is the patron who borrowed a book, a CD, and it had a label on it, and the label came up in his CD exchanger, and he is asking for reimbursement. The CD exchanger was in his car, of course, so it's more expensive than one that would have not been. The total dollar amount was approximately $428. The library director's response was that we cannot reimburse people. I had Amy check the library policy when you sign for a library card, and it says right there that the person is responsible for those items. Again, this could have happened to anybody, we don't know. We don't know if the CD player heated and caused the label to come up. We don't know if the label was up before he put it in. So I want to bring it to the board, so we have a discussion and a vote on this. Doug?
Was this label unique and we don't have it on any other CDs?
No, we have it on all of our CDs.
And are they almost always placed in the same position?
Yes.
And I noticed in his letter that he had a 6 CD player.
A 6-disc changer.
Okay, and we don't know whether he had just this one or whether he had 6 in there, do we?
Correct.
Okay.
I think you already have the policy in place, we really just gotta enforce it, and I feel for them, but.
It's a risk.
Yeah, exactly.
And the fact that we do offer a free service, it's not like we are charging for our service and things like that. Again, we don't know all of the exact situation that had occurred. So I would like to ask for a recommendation from the board.
So move that we do not reimburse and we follow the policy that we already have with a card.
Do you feel that there's any aspect of the policy or the labeling that ought to be changed or that could be improved?
I don't think so. We've been using these labels for years. We don't know what happened with that particular label.
That's what I thought.
They have stuck really well in the past. This is our first time that this has happened. So.
Okay.
Did we say this was did we tell Mr. Trimmer that it was coming to the board for
Yes.
action?
He was invited, but
Okay.
he had another obligation.
Okay.
So yeah, I got invited him. I will, we
There's
have
a
a motion.
Doug made a motion not to, and I'm not going to list the gentleman's name, not to reimburse the patron for the damage to the CD player following the policy listed when you apply for a library card.
You have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
So I just want to make sure that the motion is correct. So, because if we already have the policy in place, then I don't think a motion needs to be done. If he's
Right.
specifically requesting, did he specifically request a
Pay-
refund?
reim-
And what's the
Reimbursement.
action
He
there?
he
Okay.
has
Yes.
Then
specifically.
as long as we're
requested.
making sure that's the motion that we're making.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we are basing this on the library card when you sign for a library card. Okay, so any other discussion? All in favor of the motion to deny payment for this request, say aye.
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 Opposed? I will compose an email a letter to Mr. Timmer explaining our decision and send that out. Thank you.
We should be, put his name in the minutes or not? I was just gonna say patron.
He sent the letter, so he had.
sent the letter.
Okay, okay.
Okay, thank you, that was hard, it's a hard decision when someone experiences something like that, but we, I was thinking $430 is 20 books at $20 from our materials budget, that's a lot. Excuse me. We'll move on to number 9, old business, Monarch System, Library System update for May.
Okay. Monarch Library System has named a new interim director. Her name is Jennifer Chamberlain, who some of you may know from previous experience. But she officially begins, I believe, June 1. She was at our Directors Council meeting this month, and she introduced herself. So that was great. There was a network hardware proposal given to the directors, and for consideration and approval. The system would make the initial purchase of network hardware to get all the libraries on the same type of system for access points and for routers. And then over the next 5 or 6 years, we would pay into a fund, a network technology replacement fund, kind of like the ILS replacement fund, and then that would cover our next purchase. So I'm bringing that to you, not for a motion or anything, but I think it's a good idea so that we can plan for the future and so that we can keep up with the current technology that's out there.
Amy,
Yes.
question on that, does that fund cover maintenance and ongoing software costs and or like access point dies? Are they buying the upfront maintenance and warranty on all that?
No, we are already pay maintenance to them for our access points and for our router. So that would still be a cost that we would incur. This would be an additional cost that we would just pay every year so that we could save up for those purchases in the future.
So when they're making initial purchase, they're not buying the extended supports or anything for you? They're making you pay that purchase separately?
No,
No,
Right, okay.
No.
Because if
No.
they're not buying upfront,
The
there's a
first
cost
year-
difference of it.
the first
Right.
year Monarch would pay for it,
right,
and then the
Then after
monthly
that.
fee would be for the next time.
Gotcha.
yeah.
And this will standardize within the system. Now, the notes here say the proposal was passed and sent to the Monarch board. The board, there were some questions, so the board was the board gave like temporary approval based upon feedback back to
Right.
the directors council, because the board wants this to be fully acceptable
Right.
to the directors.
Correct.
So,
And I think this is something that we can easily put into our next budget. It's $300 for West Bend to do this. So I think it's very easy to slide that into our next year's costs for what we will get. Okay. The last thing I wanted to mention was we're going to be at the fair. Yeah, actually, Monarch Library System wants to have booths at the 4 fairs that Monarch Library System represents, and Washington County is one of them, obviously. So the 5 libraries are getting together, and we're gonna have a booth at the fair. So the cost for the booth is going to be covered by Monarch, and they will help us with technology needs and bringing out the big screen and the iPads and all that stuff that we can show people how to use Overdrive, how to use Pronunciator, the resources that we are available within the county, and also to promote our libraries and make sure that everybody uses Washington County libraries.
the Monarch board was quite supportive of this idea.
Yes. It's a great marketing tool. You know, how many people come to the fair? It's like 100,000 people that come to the fair. So it's a great opportunity for us to not only work with other libraries, but to get the word out about libraries.
And the staffing for that will be library board, not library board, we wouldn't know how to do some of this stuff. People from your staff.
Yes, from our staffs. Library board members could come as long as they're with a
Okay,
librarian that's there. So I couldn't have 2 board members there, but I could have a library board member and a librarian there. So if you're interested in being at the fair, maybe learning some more and promoting our libraries, let me know.
I'll have to stop by. I know
And at least stop by when you come through.
Germantown was at my Fest Library. They had a lot
Yeah.
of wonderful stuff there.
Yeah. So that's it.
any questions for Amy on Monarch Board? I think Jennifer will be a great addition to the board. She's quite dynamic.
Okay.
If we have no questions, we will move on to the library basement renovation update.
Okay, Mr.
Oh,
Craig.
here's Craig.
Good evening, folks. I'll sit down in the hot seat, if that's
Yes.
right. That's just the money asking seat.
That's the money seat.
I told Jay there was a difference between money taking and money asking.
Oh,
Good deal.
Welcome. Thank you again for having me. Welcome to the new members. I was here last month, we talked about kind of a floor plan, some ideas for this potential option of building out the basement of the library. And we talked some generalities. So today we're talking, get some more information. You have the cost in front of you, and I want to kind of talk through that.
Yep.
Then we can throw out any kind of questions and things we've discussed before or haven't discussed. So it's kind of an open-ended thing. I don't think we're looking for any action necessarily, other than maybe a consensus we want to continue to move forward together. So let me go to the money, because that's always the number one thing. As you have in front of you, this plan includes having a general contractor and a full bid-out process. And according to Zimmerman, they're working with some other entities, and they're thinking this is a pretty solid cost estimate. Again, this is a cost estimate. So with this cost estimate, we're looking at about $400,000. It's a big gulp for me and probably you. So a couple things I think I'm aiming to get this whittled down to at least 300. You may say, that's still 300, and yes it is. There's still cost of doing business. But I think we as a department, Parks, Rec, Forestry, could be the general on this. We've done many projects, I think I mentioned that before. So I look at cutting out the general conditions, overhead profit, probably a lot of the contingency, because we're not building a new building on soil we don't know. We know what the basement's like, it's dry and this and that. So that's $62,000 out right away. And I mentioned also, we have pretty good contacts with a lot of vendors, contractors in town. So whether it's electrical, plumbing, mechanical, whatever, I think we can look at cutting some of those costs. Now, that's not a guarantee, but that's certainly an option. And we're certainly willing for you folks to work with anybody specifically, especially mechanically, or any other trades that we can talk to. We'll certainly be happy to do that. So I guess it's the number I'm looking at getting us towards. Last time we also talked about utility cost and rent cost and those kind of things. So what we're doing tonight is having this conversation. If we're still at a green light to proceed after tonight, tomorrow night we have a Park and Rec Commission meeting. We haven't really had a chance to talk about it because we got 9 people. We can't even get 4 together for our meeting. So they guarantee me tomorrow we will have a quorum. So we're having a special meeting tomorrow night to continue that discussion. And we also have a couple of contractors on our Park and Rec commissions. I think they'd be pretty knowledgeable on this cost end. So that's a real general overview. Amy, myself, and Jay talked today a little bit further about steps down the road if we continue. I think we need to go to county council to at least explain the process and what we're looking at doing. Eventually, there have to be some money transferred from different funds that we have and maybe you have. So we're looking at taking that to council again if everything continues on this path on June 3rd. And I think we will wait till after all that goes through before we start to do some kind of design. So we have a concept design that Zimmerman's been very good to us about. They've done this gratis. But as we move into real specs and plans, we'll need to pay so for that. So that's a really quick overview. So Doug and I had a phone conversation today about some other things. But
what would you realistically guess at what Rec and Parks could reduce? Anything more than that 62,000? I mean, would you venture putting a number on it?
My hope is we land at about 300,000 total. So that's knocking another 40,000 beyond the 62. Because you're at just about 400. I think there's some room in the electrical and certainly the build out. I feel confident we can knock some out of there. So optimistic, I'm an optimistic realist. So optimistic we can get 300, I think, pretty confidently, but I can tell you I can go to 200 or 100 or something.
All right, no. The other thing is, we would then have to get into some more details that I don't think we want to dig that deep at this meeting. I think we're at a higher level, like, who's going to pay for toilet paper down there? We don't want to get in that level. But that type of thing needs to be discussed, and I'd like to suggest a committee from the board meet with you and some of your people and iron out those things. But in looking at this, I would like to have everybody take a look at their financial page. When I was talking about city money and county money and that, this is only my own thought. But I would like to suggest that we take the $279,000 out of the library Fund 21. That is all designated monies, and use that and give it as seed money for this. And then it would be up to Recs and Parks to come up with the balance, either through grants, whatever. But we are using city tax money to promote a city improvement. It is helping, I think, a worthwhile project. There is benefit that I can see accruing to the library. We have talked about doing something downstairs anyway, and I can see some benefit accruing to us in space and that might be available. So my recommendation would be that we use that $279,000 out of Library Fund 21 as the seed money for this project.
And I've got to throw out one correction, because it isn't going to be 279, because we have to take the 33,000 out, so. we
All right,
will-
246.
We'll say 240.
But if we get the money back at the end of the year, we'll put it back in. I never forget.
No. Chris?
So we talked about this last meeting. I see this more as a commercial lease opportunity, in a sense, with a leasing contract and everything with the department. So in my mind, yeah, we could do more up front, or we could just give them a discount or a free rate for a year or whatever it is to recoup those costs instead of dumping a lump sum. Because we're not making money off it anyway.
No,
right?
but where are they gonna get the money?
Well, they would have given us the money anyway through
Who would?
the Parks Department.
They don't have any
for
money.
Rent. Well, what I'm saying is I would like to see us rent out this property to the Parks Department, if that's what they would like to do.
Oh.
And if we want to give them a gift or a discount on that, then that is how we recoup our costs.
Except that my understanding is their budget right now does not even include rent or utilities. So we would be causing them to either raise prices or cut out programs. And there is a benefit, as I said, that we get from this. And we could also make that meeting between a committee from the board and from them to look at the potential of rent. 'Cause that was my first thought was, well, they're paying rent at the mall, so that prompted my call to him. My first question was, how much are you paying rent? And he says, nothing. Oh, how much are you paying utilities? Nothing. So it's a good deal, and I don't think we want to lose that service in the community. And one of the things we're also talking about in the library, you've got to be more than just a place to get books. And we're offering I think a pretty valuable service to the community.
But I'm going along with Chris, and your added utility costs and other things. I'm kind of looking at, it has to, down the road, has to be some type of lease agreement, because where are we gonna come up with the money to add for the lighting, for the HV, all that? We, in our budget.
That's,
It's
you mean for the utility costs?
Utility costs, we have to do some type of a lease agreement in order to recoup those costs, the additional costs, because there are gonna be people down there, what, 4 days a week?
And I think that's what Doug was talking about, having a
Yeah.
meeting, not here for
Yes.
us to discuss, but
I
in this
mean,
other,
I-
but that
What
is a
I'm-
point to,
What I'm looking at is, this is a proposal for Parks and Rec. So they can go to their board and say, hey, look, the library is willing to commit $279,000 so we can get this thing off the ground.
I don't think we
Now,
can
we,
admit that. I don't think we can admit that.
but, and then it's up to us, Park and Recs, to see how we can come back. There's utilities, they're looking for a possible lease. You know, we need to come up with something.
Yeah.
I look at it a
I
little bit
think-
like Chris and some of the leasing we've done at the district and other things is if I go somewhere else and I'm going to lease from you a spot, I don't expect you to build out for my store or whatever else. What I'm trying to balance in this, in the dollar amount is our added benefit to us. Because this is not completely a benefit to Parks and Recs, it's a huge benefit to us
Right.
also.
Correct.
And I think that's what has to be balanced out in the conversation.
Yeah.
I don't think it's our ownership to front the majority of the bill unless we can say we get the majority stake in the money coming back into this or the benefit to the library. I just don't know how to quantify that when we're talking about a dream down the road of building something in the basement. And that's what I'm trying to balance of, I get what you're saying, Doug, but also the realistic side, if I go and rent a space, you know, you're not leasing it to me and paying out the $300,000 or $400,000 in costs. But there is added benefit to us, and so I think that's what we have to figure out with Park and Recs is what is that balance? I don't know if it's 270,000 or 250 or 100 or 150,000. I think that's what we have to figure out, and then that's gonna drive the lease agreement. Because either we're paying for it up front and not gonna ask them to pay it down the road, or we have things in the lease that allow us to rent that space out to other entities that allow us to then make money off of that. I think that's where that subgroup has to figure that balance out.
Right.
Because we're not completely a commercial leasing agent, there's benefit to us, but yet there's also liability on the Parks and Rec. That's what we have to figure out in this whole process.
Well, the other thing we could do, rather than trying to come up with just a committee, we could have a special board meeting after you've met, and maybe the two boards sit down and hammer some of this stuff out.
I think the good part here, what I'm hearing, is we as a board are really interested in doing this and feel this is something that we can sink our teeth into to do. So, you know, Doug's dollar amount is showing on the part of some of the board members, we really want to do this and think this would be a great opportunity. So I think that's, Craig, what you can take back to your board to say how excited we are for something, for this opportunity.
I think that it's a great opportunity too, and I think we can work out an agreement, you know, whether it be half or whatever, you know. I mean, I was thinking half personally, you know, because we would gain benefit from it. You know, we could come up with that.
Well, I
So.
wrote down 279, so. But no, I'm
Especially-
joking. I think I want to be fair.
Yeah, I do not
That's-
want to drain the
I
emergency
agree.
fund out.
No.
After last meeting, you gave me 2 names of board members that were interested.
Yes.
I wasn't sure if that was more of the design end of it, or was that getting into the nuts and bolts of the finances? Because I think that's a great way to go if we have probably 2 board members and Amy and myself and 2 of our board members or something to sit down and kind of hash out some of this.
Tim and Joanne had volunteered. Would you be interested in doing design and the lease?
Sure, that's fine.
We have
Yep.
both aspects of it, so.
And if there's other folks, that's fine. It doesn't
No,
have to
we
be-
can't have, because of that, 3 would
Quorum.
constitute a quorum for us, so
Well-
we can't have more than 3 board members, otherwise it's a public meeting.
Welcome forum.
Yes.
Well, we can sit down and do it instead of walking.
Yeah, right.
No, that's fine. Then
No.
It probably makes sense for us as well, 2
Yeah.
of our board members. Staff, you can Brad can come and knock out the numbers.
Right.
You can probably do a poem about it.
Oh, we're not gonna go through that.
I've heard.
That's a long story.
No, I think that, well, I'm excited that you're interested and excited about the opportunity.
Yeah.
Like I said, we haven't had a chance really to talk to much of our Park Rec board about it, but I think they'll be very interested. I don't know if Chris has heard anything else on council level, but I think it's been positive, so I think it only makes sense for the community, and that's what we're trying to figure out. So now it's getting the details nailed down. And like I said, last meeting, I think we also are looking at tapping some potential donors for some of this. I don't think we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, but it might be enough substantial, whether it's making it nicer, or maybe we add on phase 1.5 or 2 sooner. Those kind of things can also be done, so.
Craig, can you remind us of the timeframe? I know
Sure.
Mr. Ball, you're out as of June, I believe, is the end of that building, or close to that. When is your ideal timeframe, knowing we have some work to do, obviously, to get to that point?
Yeah, we have to probably keep it moving along. This council did approve a 90-day extension of the folks that were looking at buying the building.
Okay.
So it's good, it buys us a little more time.
So what does that put us, you all
That puts
to?
in the mid to late August.
Okay.
Now, they could come through in July and say, hey, we found our person that's gonna develop this, but, so it buys us a little bit more time. We're good through the summer, but the fall's in question. We do a lot of programming September, October, and early November, and we kind of have a break till January. So, I mean, ideally, timing-wise, and for us, it would work best if we could start to do the construction in the fall, but actually start using it in the first of the year. But if we get knocked out of Mutual Mall earlier, we need to figure something out. So there's some short-term things we can do maybe within our own facilities, get us through that. So I guess we're still looking at that. If we can do, if we get this approved by June, we start doing design, that's probably another month to 5 weeks. Do some bidding out, you gotta get people in to construct it, so I don't think you can really get going until September anyways with construction.
Okay.
But we'll certainly move it faster if we have to, or slow it down a little bit if we can.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
279, any other numbers?
No, okay.
I said yeah, 150.
150, all right, so 150, 279.
Do we need a motion to continue with this, or
No.
no? We're just,
No.
yeah.
Shaking our heads.
No, I think they're
We're
shaking
good.
as in consensus
Okay.
here, and
We're
the
good.
trust keeps us moving down the right path. And then I'll report back to you after our meeting tomorrow night, and keep the communication going for sure. And then
Would you like me to attend tomorrow night?
You're more than welcome to if you like.
Okay.
Surely it wouldn't hurt to show, I mean, they kind of believe me sometimes. Sometimes not, so it doesn't hurt to have somebody else there saying, hey, yes, we're committed to working with you folks on this project. So if you don't mind, that'd be great.
What time?
And then after that meeting, we can sit down, kind of get this group, band, happy people together to figure out some of the details.
Perfect.
Excellent. I appreciate your time and your interest.
Thank you. Thank you for coming again.
Construction won't be dependent like the dog park. The dog park has been so delayed.
Right.
6:30, okay.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks,
Thanks, Craig.
Yeah.
Okay, we will now move on to new business. A, library roof assessment.
Mr. Rob.
down there.
Yeah, yes, While he's going there, I'm gonna pass around some pictures that were taken from a drone of our roof.
Thank you for sitting through an hour and a half.
No, it wasn't an hour and a half.
It's an hour so far.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Rob Shallow. I've been with the Building Inspection Office in West Bend for 28 years and involved with the Facilities Department for the last 7-8 years. And so I've got to be very familiar with this building along with a lot of our other facilities. And you can see from looking at the pictures, and the reason we did the pictures is it's very difficult to get technical on things that you can't see. And basically, the short story is that the new addition, which was built in 1999, the actual angled roofs that are on there are in good shape. It's the flat roof in the middle and the support for one of the air conditioning units that we've got marked on there that you can see, that's starting to fail. And then couple that with the building that we originally had and where it was, that has its original roof on it, and where it's coupled into, where we tied into the new addition, that's always kind of been a problem. So we went out, we got a local company with fixed operations in West Bend that the cities had do a lot of our other facilities to get a quote, and it's not just a patch job, it's something that they're going to guarantee for 20 years, but it's a 30-year roof. And the repair for the large train unit that is losing its support on the roof right now, rather than a patch job, this will be a permanent engineered replacement for it, so that it'll be one and done. We'll fix this and be done with it. So hopefully if we go through with this, at least our roof problems will be behind us, and we'll have something you guys can count on in the next 30 years. Any questions about the pictures?
No?
Rob, what do we expect a life cycle on a roof like that should be?
Typically, they're 30, and if you look at the aerials, you'll see it looks like a patchwork. In the original design, we saved money by going to a rolled roof system. The new roof will be a flat membrane, so there will be no seams. And that's really where our confidence level comes in with that type of installation. And it's usually the standard that we see for new buildings now as well.
You're talking replacing all the roof, not just that,
The two
Member-
flat sections.
just the flat stuff,
Flat sections.
not the rest of the roof.
So the shingle sections look real good.
Okay,
Fortunately,
and how long do you think those shingle sections are worth?
Probably another 15, 20 years.
Okay, and what about the flat?
It's just the flat. We're in worse shape on the original building than we are in the addition. The big worry on the addition is the physical support for that large train air conditioning unit, and if that comes down and fails, we'll have to do something. Instead of being in the planning mode, we'll be in the react mode. But it'd be kind of nice to get on the planning side of that and be proactive about fixing that.
But then how long do you think it will last? Just speculation, what do you think it'll last now?
Well, probably anywhere between 3 and 5 years before we start. We're already doing reactive maintenance on it already. When we had a bad rainstorm, specifically in our front lobby, where the two roofs join together, you can see where we've done quite a lot of patchwork there. When you go outside the second floor restrooms, you look at the ceiling tiles, which we don't recommend patrons look up at the ceiling tiles. But we do stock quite a few boxes of replacement ceiling tiles, and our staff is in here quite often doing minor repairs on the roofs and then replacing the tiles, because it's not just spot leaks, it's around where we have the roof drains. They fail after a while, and cause for that failure, believe it or not, is temperature swings. It's a dark roof that absorbs heat, and when it gets warmer or colder, compared to the temperature of the buildings, little seams will open up and water finds its way in strangest places.
Okay.
In the replacement, is it going to be a white membrane? Because
So it'll still be a dark.
still be a dark membrane, because one of my buildings, when I was in Mequon, we put a white membrane on top.
Yeah, there's virtually no difference between the two other than the color. You see a lot of the white ones down south where black gets to be a problem absorbing heat. Up here, black is kind of a good thing because it helps keep the snow melted off
Okay.
in the wintertime. So that reduces the snow load on the roof.
Okay. That's, I was just,
Reduces the water problem on the roof for our drains though.
yeah, okay.
and we saw the estimate was 283.
Around 200.
Correct.
It's approximately that.
But that was all inclusive too.
That included everything.
Looking at this, I really think we need to think about replacing the roof sooner rather than later. So I would like to recommend that we need to go to the city. This is a city building, they are responsible for it. We do have to pay a portion of the roof. But Chris, you would have to enter a resolution or bring it up with the Common Council that for next year, for the 2020 budget, they need to put in maintenance for the library roof based on the inspection and the fact that, boy, if we had the tram come down through the ceiling, we'd have a problem.
Did you want to have the word maintenance or replacement?
Replacement.
Because you said maintenance.
Okay, I meant replacement for the
I know what you mean.
roof replacement.
That would be for the 2020 budget.
And this is about the time we need to start thinking about the budget, because I'm sure the city's gonna be
Did we ever verify from the city, when we've gone back and forth, is it a 50-50 match, or is it how was that decided?
That was in the county contract,
Okay.
In order
and
for them to release the funds from the county capital, it's a 50% match.
Okay.
Thought there was some debate over how the 50% was estimated, if it was.
we had one
50%
answer from the
versus-
county and one answer from the city, so
Right.
at this point,
So we,
why
so
I'm
we
asking.
need to resolve that.
I don't know if we can resolve this. I know though, we need to let the common council be aware of the fact that there was a problem and it needs to be
Right.
rectified. That was in the contract with the county for county money. That really has nothing to do, if the county wasn't there, it's a city building, the city would be responsible. So I don't know which way to look at it from that standpoint, with that county contract.
That would fall under that? I mean, would
That would include,
because they would come out of city dollars, it's not like. it could
Right.
be allocated
It'd come out of
by-
CIP.
because
Yeah.
we've got like 30 buildings in our inventory, so we do this a lot.
Yeah.
And each one's a different story. We just got done with Public Works and vehicle maintenance. Kind of like to do these on a rotating basis, so we don't have to do them all in one 5-year span.
And Chris, that county contract, we don't have that anymore, or do we?
Yes, we do.
When is it coming up for signs? It's a 5-year contract.
No, it's not, it's perpetual.
No,
Yes, it is, it's perpetual.
It has become perpetual?
Yes, it has. It
Because
was the
you
last
had
time
to,
we
you
signed
had
it.
to sign it and I had to sign it. When you were president, you signed once and I signed
Yeah,
once.
it's perpetual, it just goes every year until the county decides to change it or.
I thought it was a 5-year contract that was signed.
So,
No.
what-
Okay, I can check that.
you're watching it, you don't want to do all these buildings at once. Is the library would be maybe on the top of your 5-year list?
Oh, you bet.
Okay.
Well, and the good news is you've got a good building here. We just want to keep it dry.
Yeah.
Right.
There's some buildings we have in our inventory that it's questionable that we want to throw that kind of money at them because they might not be in the same shape that this building is in.
Okay.
But we've done a good job of maintaining the building, so we want to keep it dry.
Does the administration know about this assessment you did?
Oh, yeah, it's all
So I wouldn't be
public record.
surprised.
Yeah.
you're-
Sooner
No,
than later.
I've talked to Jay about
Okay,
it.
okay, okay.
Okay,
Okay,
Good.
okay.
thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you for
Thank
coming,
you.
we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hopefully this will work out.
Yeah.
How do you guys enjoy your first meeting? It's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
They're not normally like that.
They're not normally like this, no.
It's just like everything came at once this spring.
Thank you, Rob.
Have a good evening.
You too. Okay, moving on to number 10, new business, library card registration policy.
Question.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
These are all policies.
yes.
I'm assuming that everybody has already read them. And unless there is disagreement, can we just, for sake of expediency, move to approve all 3 of these at
They're
one
separate, we
time?
need separate motions.
Okay?
Has everybody read the policies? Is everybody comfortable voting on the policies without much discussion?
Yeah.
Okay, then we will move on to ask for a recommendation for the library card registration policy.
So move to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Collections and equipment policy. Do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Tornado emergency policy approval.
So move.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a-
Move fast enough.
Yes.
Not necessarily about the policy specifically, but are there other policies related to severe weather or other emergency incidents that we need to have on file besides something like this?
Yes, we will have a fire policy. I'm creating that now. I'm hoping to have it next month or the month after.
So there's more coming.
Yep.
That's what I was just- This one was very
Just fire.
specific, so I was just curious.
Yeah.
There's gotta be other, if we have this one, we better have some other ones
Yep.
that go in line, so, okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the tornado emergency approval. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Doug. Moving on to our last
Oh, that's not,
item.
it's not a motion.
We still like how you do the secretary.
Oh, yeah, you can read my scribbles. It all gets spread out on the
Number
counter.
10, new business, item E, self-check machine replacement.
Okay, as was discussed at our last meeting, the older self-check machine is no longer available to be under service contract due to its age, and therefore we can't find parts. So once this machine goes down, it becomes dead. We were able to, well, Brad was able to pull statistics that are included in your packet of the self-check machine. That would be number 2 that would need to be replaced. So we were also able to get a quote from Biblioteca, who would have the self-check available to us, and you see the total there as $17,276.20 for a total. So, your thoughts? Yes,
Brad,
Doug?
first of all, thank you. These are very good statistics and very helpful. I did some analysis on this, and assuming 5.5 days a week and 52 weeks a year, and then taking out some days, the checkout machine number 1 for the year 18, the number of items was 42 per day, and the number of patrons was 10 per day. The other machine, it was 20 patrons, 20 items per day, and 7 patrons per day. The question I have is your point, Brad, where you say having a machine allowing alphanumeric characters will increase individual use. How will that happen?
Because right now, the old machine only allows for numeric, so no one can use it if they would happen to have, say, letters in their PIN. They can only use the one self-check. So if that's being used, they may not use that self-check. So by having everything consistent that you can use alphanumeric, then either machine could be used for it. That could be part of the reason why also it's slightly lower on the older machine, because only digits can be used in it.
This is,
So the older machine is checkout 2?
The older
Yes.
machine is checkout too.
And that's one that only has numeric.
Correct.
well, then you have another point. If library has only one machine and it breaks down, there are no other machines available for use by public until repaired.
If we're down to one machine, if that older machine dies and we just take it out and we just have the other machine working, it goes down, nobody does any self-checks. I can guarantee you, actually, that new self-check went down no more than 3 weeks ago. It was out for several days before we get a tech out here. Luckily, we had the old one working.
So, if we only have the one machine and it goes down, there are no other solutions other than waiting. How about putting additional people on the checkout so that people can check out with, if you have 2 people at the checkout counter, the machine goes down, can't you put a third person there to speed things up?
If we have a person available, yes.
Why can't you have a person available? Because that would be number 1 priority.
That's usually what we do.
Yeah. Okay, then, is all of the other equipment in this building, does it all have a backup? In other words, if the air conditioner goes out, we got a second unit. If the boiler goes out, we have a second unit.
We
Actually,
have
we
2
do.
boilers.
Do we have 2 air conditioners?
We have a train and we have the Mammoth.
Math, yeah. each one takes care of the other section.
Yeah.
My point being is I think $17,000 is a very expensive convenience. And I'm opposed to spending that money. We ought to just have the one machine. And if it goes down, accommodate the patrons until we can get it back up.
Question,
Anybody else? Yeah.
what's the life cycle on something like this?
I've stuck on something like this. Well, this thing's been around since before I was here, the old one is.
Okay.
So I don't have any specific data on that, but considering that the old machine is running Windows 2000,
Wow.
okay?
Yeah, it's about 20 years old.
Yeah. And the newer one is running Windows 7.
Okay.
However, operating system has no factor in this.
Okay.
They have told me, so it does not have any effect because it is so contained. I do not need to put Windows 10 on any machines.
Okay.
I would not even be able to upgrade that old one to Windows 10 if I wanted to.
Sure.
Yes?
So because I can do math too. I took your 20-year number, so if this machine lasts us 20 years, and you divide it by the amount of days that we're open, and then divided it by the number of patrons that we would like to think use it, that gets to every book costing us 23 cents. So really we're saying, is it worth 23 cents a book to purchase this new equipment, assuming it lasts 20 years?
Mind you, too, that we do not have data from before 2017, or when was the last one we have, in 2017 on that older unit. My estimated guess is going to be that those numbers were higher earlier on when it was considered the new machine.
Yeah.
So the data can be somewhat skewed.
Brad, what is the service contract on this? So we're talking about when we get into the life cycle and the total cost of ownership of this, what is the yearly maintenance?
The maintenance,
cost
what is the
on this?
the maintenance run is balled up, isn't it, with 3M?
It's balled up with 3M. That machine would be about 2,000
2,000, yeah.
a year.
So that needs to be added
Add it
into
to your,
that,
Okay.
there's a hit, that was the hidden cost I was
That's
looking for.
Another 40,000.
Yeah,
So,
that's what I was
Hold on.
looking for. I do the math faster than me, but I think that's where I struggle a little bit.
okay.
It is both, just looking at the dollar amount, fine, to do total cost of ownership. I don't, what is the age on the first machine?
The newer
Yeah,
machine,
newer machine.
that was here before I was here, so I'm going to estimate 10 years at least.
I guess in my mind, it would be nice to look at what would it be like if we got rid of two and bought one really, really nice, and what would that cost? And plan that and budget that out for a budget year as part of a technology rotation cycle. And I don't know if there's speed, I don't know enough about individual tech out, what you guys use here compared to what we may use, speeds and options and so forth. I don't know if there's different pieces that can make that more user-friendly or not when you talk about pins and all of that. But are we better off with one nice machine like this and plan for it, and then drop the maintenance on that other machine, that second machine? Because we're paying maintenance on that second machine also.
of
And
2,000?
go down,
So
eventually get to one, but not pay maintenance, and keep the other one, and not pay maintenance.
Well, here's the
on
thing
it.
though, right now, we're only paying maintenance on one, and that's 2,000. And this one here, I checked with the people at 3M, and we can get a 5-year locked-in contract for maintenance from them. We can pay it annually at no increase, which is normally 3 to 5% that they told me otherwise, at about $1,700 a year for 5 years.
For the better
For
machine.
the, for the newer one, for this one
Yeah.
alone. So if you want to talk about saying, okay, drop both of them, current one, both 1 and 2, get this one, that's what you're dealing with. You know, so that way you've got your one, you've got it brand new, lasts us 10 years, lasts us 20 years. I don't know. It all depends on
I
usage.
think they're talking about just letting the old one run until it runs out of life. Is that what you're saying, Tim?
Either or, either
Either
way
or.
of what it looks
Okay.
like, I'm just, at some point you get into the whole, you're talking, one's a 10-year-old or longer machine.
Right.
One is
20.
20.
20 years
Give or
old.
take,
Are you
right.
better off having
Yeah.
one that's under contract versus trying to limp
Yeah.
along two old ones or whatever, that's why I'm trying to process all of that through. And then is that, the other point, or the other question I have, Brad, is you said it was multiple days before you get a tech out here. Is that common? Is that their normal
It-
turnaround time?
It varies,
Okay.
it varies a lot. It depends on what other stuff's going on. Some stuff takes priority because of
Yeah.
whatever reason. Maybe that other library has only one. you know, they get priority. Maybe we'll get more better priority
So-
with the one.
So is that the vendor who services it, or is that the system who services it?
The vendor.
The vendor is,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, we got a good relation with them. I know the tech who comes out all the time. He gives me the lowdown on how this stuff actually works, so.
Do we typically go out for bids for things like this, or is this the only company that really does it?
Only company we've ever worked with. And they speak French to me.
Is that a good thing?
So,
Only if I understood it.
I don't know if we should call for a vote or if we should move this to next month's meeting to take a vote on this. Is time of the
Bear in
essence?
mind one thing,
Yeah.
that discount,
Mhm.
that disappears at the end of June. If you wait until June 18 and you decide to go with it, it's gonna give me a lot less time to put together the POs and everything to do this. So,
Okay.
I mean, if you wanna call it now, nothing's gonna change between now and 30 days from now. This, what you see is what you get. This is not gonna change in any way, shape, or form. My biggest concern would be is if we let it go, and it, for all I know, it could last 5 months, 5 years, or 5 seconds. You know, I really don't know. I mean, I can patch it along as best as I can, but eventually the computer's gonna fail. The printer is going to fail, and that is a proprietary printer. It is not just a typical receipt printer that we have. This thing is built into that unit. It's a bear to work with too when it gets roughed up in there, I can tell you that for a fact as
Was
well.
this covered in the strategic plan at any
No.
point?
No.
So this was not.
So where would the money come
That
from?
was my next question. Where would the money come from?
I don't know.
And I think with that, and I appreciate the vendor discount. I wonder sometimes, like Chris, like, you know, sometimes you just gotta go out and ask. And, you know, well, I mean, we don't do really a lot of self-checkout by us, but what are the other products that are available? What are the costs? What does that look like? I just wonder if, without a plan of having the money, with all the other things we're talking about, if this is a better
Right.
bid in budget for next budget cycle or not. And that's just my out loud wondering at this point.
Yeah, it is a chunk of money, and, you know, if we do decide to do this, it would make sense to come out of technology, because it is technology for the library.
I'm wondering if other libraries are having issues with their machines like this. See, I'm looking at it from an economy of scale. What if multiple libraries are looking for checkouts at the same time? Do you think, say, a Monarch or someone could oversee something like this to try and get a better price?
If you took it out of technology, you take it out of both 21 and 126, half and half. Yeah.
Well, if we have money in there.
Yeah, there's
With
26,000.
279,000.
No, no.
Self-check machines traditionally for us, as far as I can tell, have never been something put into a rotation like I did with the computers here, simply because they are a durable good in the sense that they should last a long time. So this is a one-off kind of deal, so to speak. I do know for a fact that that old machine that we have is so old, there may only have been 1 or 2 guys left at Biblioteca who knew anything about it, because a lot of times when we were under contract, we'd bring them out here, they say, oh, you got one of those. And they would look at it and scratch their heads and want to beat it to death in most cases. So as far as, you know, across the system, I know that the Mead Library has a unique kind of self-check, which is very different from anything I've ever seen. I can't even explain it to you. It's just different. But it doesn't have the same kind of V unit.
For the books.
Yeah, for the books. Like this one would be and like our second one would be. So-
Did you contact other libraries to see what they have?
I did not.
Okay. I mean, I'm wondering if there be something out there that is better? Is there something out there that could be cheaper? Is there something out there that's cheaper and maybe a little bit slower? But it does the job.
Slower, meaning,
Pardon me?
slower, what do you mean by slower?
Well, in other words, if it's cheaper, they may not have a feature that the existing one has. You know, I don't know. I know that, you know, the one that I use is the numeric, I have no issues with it. The one on the left, I think, which is the newer one, that one is I have problems with that one. I go back to the other one, it works every time. So it's kind of ironic that the old one works all the time, the other one doesn't.
You come get me sometime, Doug, we'll take a look and see what's going on.
I go see the librarian.
Brad, that's.
I like to talk.
Yeah.
I like
That's what
personal
I run all the
interaction.
time.
Yeah.
We will confirm that.
I wanna hear about it, if it is or not, user error.
Well, I mean, do we have a decision?
No, we don't. I think based on what the board is asking, there's some questions I think that need to be answered, like other libraries. Again, I like seeing, you know, I don't know if Monarch would take on something as being like, I mean,
Well-
when you have
I
20
think
or
they,
17 libraries, 30 libraries, you know, you could put a lot of clout going through possibly the vendor that you have, you know, and things.
I think the first issue is timing. The Monarch Board doesn't meet for another month,
Okay,
so then we've added another month.
yeah,
Then you've got to get the board to agree that that their technology department, which is supposedly so overwhelmed now, to take on another project, so that would be another month until you find that out. It could be 3 months down the road.
And regardless, if the other libraries jumped on board, it's something they'd have to budget for anyway. So it sounds like that's really
Not
what it
an
comes
issue.
down to, is we.
Maybe in the future
we
they
need
could
to
take
budget
it
for it both ourselves and possibly other libraries.
I mean, I guess I'd like to see it at least go out to bid.
Yeah.
To multiple vendors, what does it look like? What is the new technology, the new options, or what is out there? And then have a report come back and say, here's what we found, this is what our recommendation is for purchase, and then we budget that for the following year, barring any sort of emergencies with both machines or something like that. The other question I have, Amy and Brad, is are you able to buy off the state contract? You know, so the state of Wisconsin will have certain contracts sometimes public entities can purchase off of, or at
No.
least get that rate.
I don't
Vendors will
believe,
honor it.
I don't believe our vendors for the library stuff are part of that.
Okay.
They're part of WILS, which is the Wisconsin Library.
Yeah, sometimes the state will have that
Consortium.
for the universities and state contracts, and then you can get the same pricing
Yeah.
that you would see.
I can check that
So
out, though.
I just didn't know how that applies to you
Yeah,
guys.
I'm not sure.
but-
I think it'd be worthwhile to check it out,
Sure.
just to see. Would our 2020 budget have enough money for this?
Not right now, I don't believe so, I'll be honest. I'm not sure where we're gonna be yet, because I haven't gotten numbers yet.
What if you were to also, if we were to say, put this in the budget for 2020? No, I'm just,
The operating budget?
yeah,
Okay.
okay. And then we wait and see if you can get it in the budget. If the machine goes down and we can put it in the budget, we could be down for a couple of months with one unit and say we got a new one coming and we budgeted for it.
I can see,
That could work.
And-
Theoretically, it could work.
And if both units would be down, Lordy, people would have to go to the
the desk,
desk. I mean, it's not.
And we have enough staff.
yes.
Yes.
Okay. That would be.
Well, we should always have enough staff of the people working here to take care of a patron that wants to check out a book. If we can't find people, I could find them, because every time I come in here, and I'll call you the next time, and I'll say, what's that person doing over there? They're doing something back in that room. But if that machine goes down, all I have to do is say, whatever you're doing, you're on the front desk,
And I do that.
okay?
And some of the people who work here are not, they can't work the front desk.
Correct.
They just,
Why?
They aren't trained,
I thought we were doing cross-training with everybody.
not our pages,
pages are,
our shelvers. We do not.
done at
librarians are being
$10 an hour.
No, they're less
or
than that.
Less than that. I mean, you can't, I mean, we don't have the funds to pay people, how can I say this? if the world goes to $15 an hour, we're gonna be in a world of hurt.
We can't do it.
So, at a salary that we're paying these people,
We have enough staff to staff those 3 stations up front all the time if we need to.
Okay, good. That takes care of my question and my concern. Good.
okay. Thank you, Doug. Any more questions?
So I have it clear, just so I understand what's going on.
Brad's got that, you gotta do the work, so he's like, I wanna make sure.
You guys are looking at, don't bother with this, but the theory is to go forward to see what can be done for 2020, possibly get 1 or 2 other options
Bids.
to throw in their bids, contractor, or vendors, I mean, in that respect. Am I
Yes.
to understand that as the
Yep.
approach?
Or new technology, like if another library has
Right.
something else that they're using.
Okay, as long as I don't have to get this up and running for you guys by
Right.
next month.
No,
Right.
no.
I have a
I
couple other things
think
in the fan.
money-wise, yeah, I think money-wise we're just not
Okay.
there. That's-
And then I can let the person at Biblioteca know that right away.
Yeah.
She's been
Perfect.
chomping at the bit since January with me,
So
and
maybe
we've
they can
gone
hold-
about 20 rounds
Maybe they
just
can
to
hold
get
that
this.
price for you too.
Yeah, I could maybe try. So, all right, very good.
Okay. Task list?
We have none.
We have no tasks?
I don't
I
think
know
so.
I'm talking to
He has a
the
task.
administration,
He's gotta talk to the
group
common
stuff,
council.
CIP, I
Oh,
got.
We got the
right,
big
the
one.
No problem, Chris can handle that. Chris can handle that.
All right, our next meeting will be Tuesday, June 18th. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all. It was a
Thank you.
heavy agenda.